Welcome back, sparklers, to another episode of Ignite Your Spark. I'm your host, Kim Duff Selby, and I am so happy you are here today listening to me and my wonderful guest. I appreciate your listening, and I hope you're listening to all the episodes. And I also hope that you will comment and give me a 5-star rating like you would your Uber driver if you are moved to do so. And please comment, because I really want these episodes to get out into the universe. It's not about me. It's about you and the people I'm touching and reaching with inspiration and spark ignition. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Today, my beautiful, shiny guest is Hope Fitzgerald. Great name, right? Yeah. And she is a visionary speaker and an author. And by the time you hear this, her new book will be released. She shares insight on something that came to her called the infinity wave, which is a 10th dimensional energetic tool. And we'll learn about that. She has devoted her life to developing individuals, communities, and the earth. I love this. Her goal is to be bringing wisdom and inspiration to all of us. And we are so lucky to have her here on Ignite Your Spark. Thank you, Hope, for joining me.
Oh, Kim, it's such a pleasure to be here and with all your wonderful guests or your watchers, listeners, whoever they may be.
Thank you. Thank you. Hope, and I know that's your real name. I love it. How do you ignite your spark?
Oh, that's a really good question. Well, I guess I have a variety of things, but the most important thing is to be in a state of gratitude. So when I go into gratitude, and I go into meditation, that's when I get sparked. I mean, being in nature, that's when I get sparked. Using this thing called the infinity wave, I get sparked. Using that with other people as well as with nature is really exciting. And I love to travel. I take groups places. That really sparks me, especially when I go to the really ancient places with the stones and all of that. I love it. So, gosh, I could go on and on and on.
A lot of ways. I just like to ask all my people that question because I'm always interested in the answer. And I find that many people connect to their spark via nature, which I love, and meditation. And I also, my spark is ignited by travel. So I get that. My spark is ignited by all those ways. So thank you for sharing that, because I just love to hear people's answers. So thank you.
Good question.
Now, let's get into how you got into the realm of spirituality, as it were, because I just love hearing people's origin stories, because most people did not shoot out of the womb and be a young child channeling or receiving messages. Now, many did and suppressed that. I get it. Tell me what led to your current iteration.
Sure, I'll try to say it quickly. I did come into this world very curious about spirituality and started to read the Bible when I was 9 because I couldn't find anything else. And it was not something my family did. I asked my mother to take me to all the different spiritual houses in our town. I was clearly seeking something and I couldn't quite get my hands on it. And then when I was in high school, I learned how to do transcendental meditation. And then that led me to a whole exploration into Eastern religions and philosophies and all kinds of things. And I sort of dabbled around. Then, when I was 21, I was fortunate to go to the beautiful community in northern Scotland called Findhorn, and that was a community that worked very much with the natural world. It was all channeled through the wife of the husband and wife team. And they grew plants that should not have been growing in sand. but they grew gigantic plants, gigantic cabbages, gigantic. There was a bamboo tree, and we're talking on the North Sea. So this is a magical place, and there is a book called the Findhorn Garden. I highly recommend everybody to read it, because if you want to know how to live with source and in guidance all the time, that's a great way to start. But anyway, I got to go there when I was 21, and that sort of popped the cork, so to speak. After that, I learned about healing, hands-on healing, and I just went down every rabbit hole that I came across. And the thing is that, you know, when you go to someplace like Findhorn and you come back completely altered and having been living in a whole different reality, I mean, I don't mean just location, I mean spiritual reality. And you start to try to talk to people who are your friends at home, and they look at you like you're cuckoo. You know, you learn to kind of be quiet about it. So from that point on, it became my own little private Idaho. So I went through, I was an actress for many years. I directed, I was a teacher, I did a lot of things. But I kept my spiritual life on a parallel path, but very quiet. And then in 2010, I had a really tough year, and there were some very traumatic things that happened. I had already started a meditation group. I play the crystal bowls, so I had sound healing going on. I had a bunch of things, but again, very much on the sideline. And at the beginning of November, I went to a sound healing retreat. I came back very different. I had cleansed myself from all this detritus that had happened. And I was walking across my living room, and all of a sudden I had a vision. I wasn't used to having visions, and there was this giant wave in front of me, giant, like 100 feet tall, and it was beautiful, turquoise, gorgeous, and it was moving toward me, and there seemed to be a byline to it. And I'm going to encapsulate that by saying, as this wave is moving towards you, it represents a push of evolution that is coming to the planet, that will be basically wrapping around the planet and anchoring in at the end of 2011. If you resist this push of evolution, things won't go so well. If you learn to swim with it or surf it or whatever, then it'll be better. And then suddenly the wave turned to its side, and now it was that curling wave, you know, that you see a surfer go through, and it kind of looks like the letter C. And that byline said, as the water, the ocean water, moves away from the shore and deepens into the earth, into the seabed, to get its energy to create that cresting, so should you, speaking to me, but speaking to everybody, leave all your book learning on the shore. Go to the earth, go to the wisdom keepers of the earth for your information, and mix that with this incoming push, whatever this push of evolution was. And then instead of the water just falling back into the water, the ocean, the water made this figure 8 of flowing water, standing wave like this. And it hung out in front of my third eye, about 18 inches, about this big, and there was no byline, and it didn't go away. And for 3 days, I walked around, you know, with this thing sort of faintly in my purview. And, you know, I went through my life. And finally, I was like, this is ridiculous. I have to sit down and figure out what it is. So I got my dowsing rods out. And by then I'd been dowsing for 15 years, and I really was self-taught. So I had a whole way of talking with my rods, my dowsing rods, that's unconventional. I didn't know it yet that it was unconventional because I didn't know any other dowsers, but I just taught myself. So anyway, I had this chat, and in a long story short, I was told that this figure 8 made of flowing water is called the infinity wave, for lack of a better term, that it's a 10th dimensional energetic. Well, what does that mean? I won't get into the dimensions, just to imagine that it's very, very purified. It's so distilled love and compassion that we're not used to on our planet in 3D. We don't usually get access to 10D love and compassion. And and that it was made of water for a reason, and it was in the shape of the infinity for a reason. So we can get into all that in a minute. But that I was supposed to share this with the world. I lived next to a sheep farm in rural Massachusetts. I'm like, okay, how am I going to do that? And I was supposed to start teaching about it starting January 2011. I'm like, I don't even know what this is. I think I'm going crazy now. So, okay. Anyway, so that's how it started. And then I wanted to say no, and I tried to say no. But the thing is, on the very last practice of that sound healing workshop I had been to right before this happened, because of a series of revelations that I had in the practices, I was so grateful that in my mind's eye, I went prostrate on the floor and just out of me, like these aren't words that I would normally utter, but silently, I said, I am a willing vessel, do with me what you will. That just popped out of my being. So when I tried to say no, they were like, weren't you the one who said you were a willing vessel? Like, dang it. Anyway, so I then I didn't know what I was supposed to be teaching. I rented the room. I put out the word, I'm going to be teaching something. I don't know what it is, but come anyway, you know. And I start every week. I sat down with my dear friend and I sat with my rods and I said, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'll just start asking questions. And as soon as I did, everything slowed down. My voice went really deep. These words started coming out of my mouth. Practices just popped out of my mouth. I did it once a week. So I had 3 practices by the time we did the weekend workshop. And I did a series of 3 weekend workshops, which was the entire workshop. So one in January, one in February, one in March. And by the end of March, when I looked back, I saw that there were 9 practices, and each one was a step-by-step process to allow a leap of spiritual evolution. And the proof was in the pudding, because the people who went through that, and believe me, I was a doubter. I was still standing back like, oh yeah, right. And I'm kind of scientifically minded. I love science, and I love science coming together with spirituality. So I was sitting back and going, okay, everybody feels good after a weekend, but does it last? Does it have legs? And what is the evidence that this is actually working? And we saw person after person, things would get resolved in their lives. Their faces started to soften and they were glowing. Their joy quotients went way up. People who were about to leave their husbands didn't leave. People who didn't have jobs got jobs. Like, it was just, wow, what is this? Anyway, I repeated that process 2 more times that year. And then I said, okay, this is a real thing. And it's not a new symbol. The infinity wave is not, the infinity sign, of course, is ancient. But it's not just the infinity sign. It is a way for us to grasp an energy. It's a way for us to kind of hold it in our minds, to make it a little more concrete.
We all need something to anchor. Can I just ask for a question? Because there might be listeners who are not familiar with dowsing rods.
Yes.
As I mentioned to you, it is one of the spiritual tools for healing or unearthing something within your life that I have not tried. I have been to many sound baths, which I just love. And I've tried a lot of things, but tell our listeners exactly what dowsing rods are and how that was able to assist you, because they may not know.
Well, first of all, dowsing is something that's been done since antiquity. There are cave paintings of people with sticks walking around. It's thought to be the oldest technology on the planet. And it's a way of becoming sensitive to the environment, but you can also apply it to your life and you can ask questions. So most people know about pendulums. That's a form of dowsing. And there are many different kinds of pendulums and many different shapes and materials, and they have specific purposes. Dowsing rods, the ones I use, are L-shaped. They're called L rods. They're shaped like an L, so the short end is what you hold on to, and the long end is what moves. Now,
She's showing us this. Hope is showing us this. So if you want to see it, go to YouTube, go to my YouTube channel, and you can see exactly what the dowsing rod looks like. Sorry to interrupt.
that's fine. So you can see this yellow and red. This is a plastic sleeve that turns so that the rod can spin freely. So my hand isn't making it go anywhere. So how it works is, and I'm showing this on the video, I'll hold these up a little higher than I normally do, but I can say, please show me a yes, and the rods move in. Please show me a no, and they move out. Now, what's great is that there are nuances with this. How quickly they move. Do they move all the way in? Enthusiastically, yes. Enthusiastically, no. Is it a 25%, 50%, 75%? We can go down any rabbit hole with these. And if you'd like to ask a question or two, you can see how it works. But, and I'm going to be putting together a workshop on this online some point. But so that I say, can I, may I, should I? I'll always start like that. And they give me a big yes. So go ahead and ask a question.
So be in a can I, may I, should I kind of
I ask, can I, may I, should I before I douse to make sure that I'm hydrated enough and in a good state to do dowsing.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I mean, what kind of questions do people usually ask? I mean, here's one. Will I be speaking internationally in 2024?
Okay, so really good example, because I want to point out that we are not fortune tellers. Dowsers are not futurists. However, what we can do is say, is it in your highest physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual good to become an international speaker in 2024? And the answer is yes, enthusiastically yes. So now you know that you can take steps in that direction. And probably, the likely there will be some success there.
Interesting. And I wanted to hold up a pendulum so people who are watching can also see the pendulum, because I've only self-taught as well. And my pendulum's going, kind of crazy, and I'm not moving it. It just, right. It moves, and now it's going to move around. And the only reason I'm doing this is so that people can see another spiritual tool. And with the pendulum, though, you only get yes or no answers. And the dowsing rods appear to be a little bit, I don't want to say more sophisticated, but able to bring us a little more depth to the answer.
Well, I think they do. I use pendulums for healing and clearing and things like that. I don't usually ask questions of the pendulum unless I have the charts with me or something. It has to be a specific reason, maybe working with a map or something like that. But the other thing that happens is, because I've been doing this now for 25 years or more, is when I told you that I sat down and these voices came through and these practices came out, that was the beginning of becoming a channeler. And I didn't trust channeling. So it was really, the joke was on me. Now I channel meditations every week for free, usually on my website. And but it's been a long road of revealing myself in that way. So when I douse, it's sort of like flicking the switch, and I start to hear things and see things. So we don't have to just be stuck with yes or no. I start to hear, and I can path us into, whatever the issue is pretty directly. The beauty of it is you can get to the nugget of an issue very quickly. And I like to not make any assumptions. I start from the widest place and we work our way into the center, and then we get the answers. It's very efficient. So sometimes I work on mundane things like, should I buy a car? is it in my highest good to buy a car right now, or should I wait till next year, or whatever it is, to emotional, psycho-emotional, spiritual questions. I have lots of people who work with me on their spiritual development. So, and clearing family systems, and like, because I have a psychology background as well. So, they are my buddies in any department.
That is interesting. So it has become for you a tool to open you up to channeling. Can you channel without using the dowsing rod?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I don't use the dowsing rods most of the time. I'm just saying, when I'm channeling, I'm just saying that when I do use them, everything opens up.
And is that how you first discovered your channeling abilities, was by using the dowsing rod?
Yeah, I mean, I sat down and had the rods with me, and I was prepared to ask questions, and then these deep voices came through. I was like, who's talking?
I really love hearing these kind of stories. And this is just my own observation, because I still do some acting, and I've always loved the theater. And I have found that the majority of actors are very spiritual beings, are more open to messages coming in, just because I think that we as actors are used to embodying other personalities or stepping into a role that isn't our own. And this is the first time I've ever vocalized this out loud. But I know from different people I've interviewed, and just I was in the spiritual closet for many, many years. I too came out of the womb just knowing, but put that aside for a long time. But I have the people I've encountered who are spiritual leaders, teachers, evolutionists, have been actors at one point in their life. Not a surprise that you also were.
Yeah. No, I mean, that until I was, well into my 30s, that was what I was doing. And I agree with you. I think, to me, spirituality and psychology are so similar. They are the study of the human soul, right? If you're going to act a part, you need to understand the soul of your character. And so that inquiry, that is where they meet. And so for me, they just go together. I don't miss my acting days, but I sure enjoyed them when I had them. But now this is my whole life.
Pursuing something that lights you up more than being on a stage, or a virtual stage, whatever the stage may be. And I also find I get great joy out of podcasting, which is utilizing the gifts and skills that I was born with. I just know
Definitely.
there's more for me as well, even at my advanced age. But let's go back into the infinity wave, because I think the concept is a little challenging, of the 10th dimension. And before I studied you and learned about you, I was not familiar with the 10th dimension. I mean, we've been hearing about transitioning into the 5th dimension, but the 10th dimension seems way out there. Knew nothing about that. And, whenever I hear stories like yours where you saw this wave, I'm like, oh, I want to see something. It's just my own ego being jealous, which is a human emotion, not a spirit emotion. I get that. But it fascinates me that you were able to actually see and read bylaws. Did those bylaws come to you in your brain, or did you physically kind of see it like on a movie screen?
They were like a little ticker tape at the bottom. Um, it was, so I didn't see it with my physical eyes. I saw it, projected. Um, it was very real, but it wasn't physical. In fact, I don't know how to describe it. I have to tell you, Kim, my bookshelf was lined with all those stories about people who've had things like this happen to them, from Ramtha to, I mean, like the whole thing. And I had been reading those books for decades, and I had really given up on having any kind of experience, because usually it happens to people who are pretty much asleep, right? And then all of a sudden they go boing, they wake up.
why I said that in the beginning, because so many of my guests and the people I've had the opportunity to speak with or read their books, they did not whoosh out of the womb into this. It was an awakening. Either it was a near death experience, or it was a divorce, or it was some other loss. And unlike yours, which was sort of a gentle, in a way, unfolding until boom, you were hit with the wave, so to speak. And not
Yeah.
knocked over a little bit into the sand. It's so funny. This is because there are no coincidences, they're only coordinated incidents, as one of my guests a couple of years ago said. In my meditation or in my journaling this morning, what came to me, and it's so funny, is that we are all, it's nothing new or novel, pearls, and that we get formed in the oyster shell. But I had the vision of a wave. Yes, I had done the studying on you too, but of the wave going into the oyster shell and smooshing around and creating us all differently. And there is no such thing as a perfect pearl. And those people who think they are perfect pearls, well, let me tell you, the imperfect ones are more beautiful. Every pearl is beautiful. But right now, as we're talking, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, that wave. I can see it in my really good visually. I mean, I don't see it like you got that vision, not that, but I can just visualize it when someone, going over all of the oyster shells. And I don't know why I'm saying this, except that I am. And there you go.
Well, I've learned so much about the infinity wave because it's taught me. And I mean, uh, okay, let's go back to 10th dimension.
Let's do that. And then we'll talk about the infinity wave. I've spoken way too much on this, and I feel like we're nearing the end, but I really want people to know about the 10th dimension and what you want them to know, or what universe wants us to know about the infinity wave in the 10th dimension or reaching the 10th dimension. Okay, go. Your turn.
The 10th dimension is really, in a sense, irrelevant. There are people who say there are 12 dimensions. There are people who say there are 1,000 dimensions. I'm not a dimensional expert, okay? All I know is that it is a rarefied place where it's not emotional. It's too pristine for emotion. So when we talk about love and compassion without emotion, it seems strange, right? But it's like the driest, most fine air. And if you're in that rarefied air, your whole being is affected by it. So when you bathe in this infinity wave, this figure eight of flowing water, you're actually gifting yourself first and foremost with this incredible. Your heart rate goes down. You feel peaceful. It works immediately. In the beginning, we had to work at it. But now there's a morphic field of the infinity wave. I've been teaching it now for 12, 13 years, and lots of people have learned it. And by the way, I just have to say, I looked in 2011, I looked everywhere. I looked in bookstores, I looked in, woo-woo shops. I looked everywhere, logos, no infinity signs anywhere. And because I thought, if I'm getting it, it must be coming in into the collective. But they said it's coming in, going to anchor in at the end of 2011. January 2012, somebody hands me a cappuccino with the figure eight in the foam. And from then on, it has been everywhere, including now a distorted version of it for Meta. I mean, everybody has it in their logo. They don't know why.
Ooh, I've
This is a
lot of tattoos on women's wrists.
It's the number one women's tattoo.
Yeah.
But that wasn't the case beforehand. So they told me it was coming in. They told me we'd have a year to work with it before it anchored in. And they were absolutely right. And so it's best to think of it as a living energy. And if you invite it in to dance in your life, it will start to take you into flow. We are being bombarded, as you well know, as all your listeners well know, we are being bombarded with issue after issue after issue after issue. Something's blowing up, something's on fire, something's, it's a never-ending assault. We aren't going to do well if we're resisting all of this change. basically the world is changing. Things are disintegrating. Other things are growing and becoming new. If we stay flexible and in flow, resilient, and in love and compassion, we are going to be able to navigate this choppy water more easily. And not only that, and this is the exciting part, we're actually going to evolve through it. That's the whole point.
Yeah. Now, I want to talk about in your book, do you give ways that we can be a part of the infinity wave? And I don't even know if I'm saying it properly. Like
You are.
or
I'm just going to show a picture so you see the wave, if that's okay. Okay. So this is the book.
Okay.
So can you see the figure 8 of flowing water here?
Beautiful.
Isn't it pretty?
And it's the infinity wave, mastering the art of love, compassion, and flow. I cannot wait to read this.
So it's a handbook. Okay, it's a guidebook. So I tell a little bit, more nuanced story of how it all happened. Then I talk a little bit about just really paragraphs on big topics like what is source. So
People need to know. People have
well, what I did was I wanted to put in a couple of things about sound, about water, just a couple of little nuggets so people knew where I'm coming from so we can be on the same page. Then I talk about ways to use it, ways to use it with nature, ways to use it within yourself, ways to use it between people. And then at the back of the book, I have all the first 9 practices laid out. Then there's a QR code so you can click in and you can download the practices so that everybody can have the audios that I created to go along with the book. That's really all it is. It's just a simple little handbook.
Well, yes, simple. Before we wrap up, I really want to know, is there something you can leave us with, a taste of an exercise or something? Because I still don't know. I know what you saw. I know the infinity wave, but I need a little more. Can we give something?
Sure. How many minutes can I have to do that?
5 minutes.
Okay. Well, let's just do this. Let's everybody close our eyes and take a deep breath or 2 and just settle down. Let your body feel heavy. Now take your consciousness and put it in your heart center, right in the middle of your body there. And just imagine that you've got a little figure 8 made of flowing water, a little infinity wave floating in your heart center, right in your body. And if you need to imagine it, you can use your finger to just sort of trace a figure 8 on your heart center, just to kind of get it going. The imagination is very important here because that's how we open the door to the infinity wave. Now, as you are tracing your finger or just imagining a figure 8 flowing water in your heart, you may notice there's just a little sensation, a little fluttering, a little softening, and just observe the wave. Just see, what is it? What color is it? How is it turned? Where is it directing? Is it left to right? Is it up and down? How's the pace of flow of the water? Just observe it. And all the while you're bathing your heart in this pristine love and compassion. So let's just take a moment. And as we breathe in, receive that compassion. And you can, as you're breathing in, just imagine that the wave gets a little bit bigger, stretches out side to side, like from one rib cage to the other, just slowly, little tiny incremental stretches with your breath. Breathing in and allowing more compassion into your heart. We don't usually do well at receiving such things, but this is an infinite compassion for you, for all you've been through, for all you're going through. Boundless, endless compassion for you. And as you continue to breathe and stretch that wave just a little bit more, widening your heart just a little bit more. Now let's just understand that this infinite love is also flowing through your heart. Love for you and for your courage to come into this world at this time. Love for the way you love. Love for all your parts, warts and all, every single aspect of you, the beautiful essence that you are. And with a couple more breaths, just stretch that infinity wave just a little more across your chest, widening the heart. And it might feel a little tight in your heart. And if that's the case, just turn the watery flow up. Just let it be like a rushing spring river. And the wave does the work. You don't have to manufacture this love and compassion. It's built into the water. Let the water do the softening. Let the water give the gifts of love and compassion. And then when you're ready, you can open your eyes and you can keep that wave at that size or let it shrink down a little bit more, and you can let it continue to flow in there. You've turned it on, it's running. You can leave it there forever if you like.
I'm keeping mine. Oh my goodness. I really saw it. It was blue and gold, and oh, it was so beautiful. And that will give everybody a taste of how you work with them as well. And your voice was so beautiful. I loved it. Oh my gosh. Thank you, Hope. What a gift. Thank you.
Oh, I'm so grateful to share it. And by the way, if you ever want to wave your guests or wave your listeners before you start, that's a really good, because usually what happens is you're sending out something that's at a high vibration. So it's going to lift everything up. It's going to lift a conversation up. It's going to lift the whole thing.
Well, it's interesting because I do that with my heart spark to yours with a golden filament of thread. And I love adding in the element of the infinity wave. So thank you for that. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, Hope, I am just blessed beyond belief to have you share your wisdom, your words, your channeling, your dowsing, everything with myself and my listeners. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Kim. It's been a total pleasure being with you.
Where can people find you? What's your website?
Spreadinfinitehope.com.
Oh, I love it. And your book is The Infinity Wave, Mastering the Art of Love, Compassion, and Flow. And all of that will be in the show notes. And once again, I wish you the best success with your book, which is coming out this week. This will not be airing until after it is well out, but I know that you will be reaching thousands and thousands and thousands of people. So,
I hope so. Thank you.
and to all of my beautiful listeners, you just received such a gift of the infinity wave from Hope Fitzgerald, my guest. I hope that your heart is just soaring right now so that you can go out and shine your light and give others permission to do the same. Thanks for shining, and see you next time.